Before we get started, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so that you don't miss any of the content that is released by GoCollect. And if you're interested, head over to Regie Collects here on YouTube. Regie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector and the host of the GoCollect speculation video, and I want to welcome you to another episode. In this episode, we are going to spend some time talking about one of the more popular comics of the week, whether Fang, Foom is going to go boom, whether you're going to get in on some Moon Knight action, what are some additional Suicide Squad keys, and much, much more. Stay tuned. In this first blog post, the blogger does a really great job of talking about one of the hottest comic books around, that being Black Panther issue number 1. And this book shot to the top of the charts, and it was fueled by the untimely passing of the actor who portrayed the Black Panther on the big screen. This book, again, hasn't done historically well, but because of what has happened, has risen to the tops of the charts, surpassing so many other incredibly popular books. Now, Black Panther issue number 1 is not the first appearance of this character. That was actually Fantastic Four issue number 52. But what makes this book special is that it was scripted and drawn by Jack King Kirby, and it is also the first ongoing self-titled series featuring the Black Panther. Now, what potentially could be surprising to some people out there is that this book, month over month, has performed incredibly well, to the tune of returns of about 16.4% up to 30%. And the blogger does a really good job of kind of outlining some of the data associated with the performance of this book, and I definitely want to encourage you to check it out. But the blogger also asks a pretty provocative question of whether this book will continue to perform, because historically this book has not been a mover or a shaker. But as of what is happening right now, this book is performing well, and the question remains, how long will it continue? The link to this blog post down in the description. I encourage you to check it out and read it in its entirety. Will Fang, Foom go boom? That is the question that our next blogger is asking. For those that don't know, Fang, Foom is going to appear in an upcoming Shang-Chi movie, and the blogger is asking the question of whether the appearance in that movie is going to do something for the books that are associated with this character. Now, the character's first appearance is really expensive in high grades, more affordable in the lower grades, but the blogger also does a pretty good job of highlighting some books that you may want to check out, including some reprints, the second appearance, and the third appearance. And we're not going to talk about these books because I want you to check them out, but I do want to at least highlight the first appearance for you. Fang Foom's first appearance was Strange Tales issue number 89. And as I mentioned, this is an expensive book at the higher grades, but when it gets to the lower grades, the price actually does start to drop off. But again, there's some reprints of this first appearance from the 60s that you may actually want to check out, as this might be a more affordable option for you. The link to this blog post down in the description. Check it out. Let me know what you think. This next blog post has me a little befuddled, and I am befuddled because the blogger makes some statements that I don't agree with. The blogger essentially says that only real fans of comics have raw books. Essentially, if you have slabs, you're not a real fan, and I fundamentally disagree with that. But setting that aside, the blogger essentially is making a comparison and drawing some conclusions as to which is better for someone to buy, whether it be raw books or slab books. And I struggle with the methodology that is actually employed here. The blogger looks specifically at two books, looks at eBay sales and GoCollect and is drawing some definitive conclusions from those limited observations. In my experience, to draw any real conclusions from something, you have to have a much larger sample size to really definitively be able to make some statements around some things. But I want to encourage you to check out this blog post. Let me know what you think, because I'm going to be reading the comments. As I do every single week, I'm going to be reading the comments, and I want to know what you all think about the statements that are being made, as well as the conclusions that are being drawn. And maybe I'm missing something. The link to this blog post down in the description. Check it out. So I want to say that this is the second blog post that I've actually reviewed where this blogger is talking about some underappreciated characters out there that potentially could get some attention with the upcoming Disney streaming service TV shows. And in this case, the blogger is talking about a team that is associated with the Vision and the Scarlet Witch that may be under the radar for a lot of people. And I'm realizing that as I'm talking, I haven't even told you the name of the team, so I might need to do that right now. And what we are talking about is Salem's 7. And this is a team that had their first appearance in Fantastic Four issue number 186. And this, again, is because it's the Scarlet Witch, is a magical type of team that has been around for some time. They faced off against the Fantastic Four, they faced off against the Avengers, and as I mentioned, they have some pretty interesting ties to the Scarlet Witch. I want to encourage you to check this one out because I think that there could be some magic here. In addition to the first appearance of these characters, of this team, there is another book that is also highlighted that you may want to check out. There is a lot of excitement about Moon Knight, just in general, because Moon Knight fans are hardcore. But I think that there are a lot of people out there that are honestly excited about this character and seeing this character come to life on the small screen. This next blog post actually does a pretty good job of looking at some characters that could appear as enemies of Moon Knight. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is the obvious. And I say obvious because this particular villain from Moon Knight's Rogues Gallery has been rumored to be in the TV show since last year. November of last year, this was the rumor, so we're going to talk about that one first, and then maybe we'll talk about one of the other long shots. The villain in question is Bushman, who had his appearance in Moon Knight issue number 1. Now, there is a cautionary note here by the blogger, and the blogger highlights here that prior to Disney's announcement, the price for a CGC 9.8 slab of Moon Knight issue number 1 from 1980 capped out around $150 to $200. Most recently, this book has had an FMV of around $300. And the blogger points out that the large volume of sales is an attractive thing, but without a sales history of steady growth prior to the Disney Plus bump, it seems to indicate that this book may be more of a short-term strategy. Now, all of that goes out of the window, of course, if Bushman is indeed confirmed to actually be in the Disney streaming service TV show. And the Moon Knight issue number 1 is not a bad book to pick up. It's a pretty solid cover. It gives you a lot of great information about Moon Knight and Mark Spector. This is one that you may want to pick up, but I would definitely encourage you, like the blogger, to not overpay for this book. Another book that the blogger talks about is Hulk number 17 from 1979. This was actually the first appearance of the Hatchet Man. The Hatchet Man turns out to be Mark Spector's brother. The blogger is basically saying, what's the chances of his brother not showing up in the TV show? And it's a good point, right? So theoretically, this one could happen. But the question is, will he take on the role of the villain? We don't know. I want to encourage you to check this one out. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. If you are a true Moon Knight fan, you've probably already checked this blog post out. But if you are just now getting into Moon Knight, you believe potentially that there is some magic to be made here, the link to this one down in the description. So James Gunn, people are putting a lot of confidence into this director, and I do not think that he is going to disappoint. For his part, our blogger is getting some fantastic blog content because of that James Gunn magic that gets made. In this post, the blogger highlights several books that you may want to check out that potentially could go up in value with the release of Suicide Squad number 2. This is the follow-on movie. And again, if James Gunn does what he is expected to do, if he does what he has done, these books could go up in value. The very first book that the blogger talks about is Legends number 1 from 1986. And this is the first appearance of Amanda Waller, the director of the Suicide Squad. And this is an awesome book, relatively inexpensive book to actually pick up, but there could be some magic that gets made here when Viola Davis reprises her role in the upcoming movie. The blogger goes on to talk about an additional book that you may want to check out, that being Birds of Prey issue number 56 from 2003. This is the first appearance of Savant, and this is a character that I know nothing about, but I am going to go hunt for this book in my collection because I have a feeling that I have it, so I want to go see if I can find it. And again, if you think that there's some potential here, I want to encourage you to check this blog post out. Do your research before you spend your hard-earned money. So there you have it. We have reached the end of another recap. I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch. I hope that you all enjoyed this video, and maybe, just maybe, you'll come back next week when we get to do this all over again.